Hello again. We have come back with some more questions. So, Mercy wrote, do you have any special habits, meditations, or rituals to center you when you write or when you get stuck? So this is a huge question. This is a really, really great question. And it's something that I've been thinking about a lot. And I've been thinking a lot about how you organize your brain and organize your time. And I feel like this is a whole book to answer this. But I'm going to give you some pointers. So we're going to start by talking about big magic. There were a lot of people who raved about this book, really, really loved it. And you know, her writing is crisp and it's accessible, and you don't stumble over stuff because it's well organized. And her central premise is that the ancients had this idea that the muse was something outside you, and you had to prepare yourself for the muse to come whenever it was most suited to the muse coming. And she's got some really poetic examples, and it boils down to you're only responsible for showing up. You're not responsible for inspiration. And I have thought a lot about that. And I think it's wrong. I think the science shows that it's wrong. I think that the muscle memory that you build by doing this thing, this writing thing that we do, is something learnable and trainable, and something that we need to approach in quite a different way than we have been taught to approach it. I see a lot of people talking about how difficult writing is and what a chore it is, and what a grind it is. And then recently a friend of mine who had been on a big project with me, we did this big charity project, and we both had lots of lifey stuff going on, and there was, things that were getting in the way. And she stepped off and she started writing fanfic. And the fanfic was just flowing. She was going into a world that was already set. So the world building had already been done, and she loved these characters. And she had readers coming out of the woodwork to read her stuff and loving it. And the reviews were great because she'd taken off the pressure. She'd taken off that pressure for it to be good or right or sellable. So I think that there is something that you have to do to get out of your own way. I do not believe that you need to simply show up and wait for the muse. I don't believe that that's true. And a couple of people have been encouraging me. I was going to say encouraging me to write a book about the things that I've been investigating, and I'm getting closer and closer to this idea that in fact I probably should write something, because I think there is something entirely different that you can do. So my special habits, meditations, and rituals to center me when I write. I am absolutely a creature of habit. I'm not a procrastinator. I do sometimes get stuck. But what I've discovered is that for me, routine is really, really important. So I have a routine every day. My day starts exactly the same way. It starts usually with a dog waking me up and telling me they need to go outside. But I do exactly the same things every day, and they all lead me to that moment in front of my laptop when I start writing. So for me, routine is really important. I also do morning pages. So I have been doing Julia Cameron's program called The Artist's Way. If you haven't read The Artist's Way and done the program, you absolutely should. And they're two separate things, right? Reading something and doing the work are two separate things. Becca Syme talked about this last week. If you've read something and you don't do the work, then you are merely aware of it. You're not actually a practitioner. I thought that was really insightful and wonderful. So The Artist's Way is this two-prong program, which is garbage out. In the morning, you write morning pages, and it's 3 pages of longhand as soon as you can from getting up, so that you've got less of a filter going on. 3 pages of longhand, just all the garbage that's going on. You're never going to share these pages with anybody else. This is very hard for me. I grew up we weren't allowed to close doors. We weren't allowed to close the bathroom door. We weren't allowed to close bedroom doors. We weren't allowed diaries. Everything that came into the house, my mother read. So I used to get a letter, read it again, and then tear it up. And it was the same at boarding school, because other girls would break into your desk and read your letters. So I would read them again, and then tear them up and throw them away, because there was no privacy. And so for me, when I first started writing morning pages, it was really hard to be authentic. It was really hard to write down what I was actually feeling. And the other reason that it's really hard is there may be blocks in your life that are of your making. So, insider tip, all of the blocks in your life are of your making. That's the whole point of You Are the Mountain, because You Are the Mountain, You Touch the Sky is very much about how hard or how easy this is entirely is up to you. So we decide that it's easy, right? We decide that this is something that we love to do. We love to do it. We go to it. We go to it with a willing heart, and we set something up. We're all so different, and our needs for routine and our needs for movement and our needs for sound are really, really different. We know lots now about how people learn, and I think we're just on the cusp of finding out about how people create as well. And to create, to be in that flow state, this is what I'm working on. I'm working on how do you get to flow. For me, I need routine. I need to be at that place, at that time, with the same materials, the things that I like. I've got a pen that I like. I don't deviate from that. I don't like other pens. I really don't like ballpoint pens at all. I have a certain kind of notepad that I write my notes on in the morning. I light a candle. I'm really, really super fussy about smells. There's just one that I found, and so I bought 10 at a time, because, you know, it turns out they stopped making things. Who knew? When you were a kid, didn't you think they were going to make everything forever? And so for me, it's very much about muscle memory and creating this space where I am doing something in the same place at the same time with the same materials. And one of the things to do if you get stuck is to work out where in your life you are confident and competent. There's going to be a place in your life where you're competent and confident. I have been doing, I'm working with a physical therapist, and we have been doing some breath work, which is just enormously difficult for me. Breathing is really difficult. Deep breathing brings up deep grief, old stuff, which I've known about for a very long time, but now I'm doing the work. And she was talking to me about, can you find a safe space where you can do these deep breathing exercises? And I couldn't find a safe place. And I live a beautiful life, and I have a wonderful home, and I have a pack, and I have a lovely wife, and my logical brain absolutely knows that I'm safe, but my emotional self does not believe that I'm safe. And I thought about it, and there are two places I've discovered that I am confident, competent. One of them is writing, because I know that this is something that I can do, and I know that this is something that I can do well. And so I try to expand that circle. It's like, is there any other place that I feel confident and competent? And it turns out that driving is my other space, because I love driving. And there's lots of mechanical stuff that you're doing when you're driving. And so I discovered that because I'm doing this stuff that is all built into my memory, these are things I don't really have to think about, I can do the breathing exercises in that space, because I am in control of that entire environment in that moment, and that mechanical part of my brain is all being taken care of. So I want you to think about places where you can be confident and competent, where you can go and get yourself into a state where you're quieting. I talked about this in London, where you're quieting the logical side of your brain, which is the side that's getting you stuck. You're quieting that down and giving more space to the creative side of your brain. So the kinds of things that you can do, you really, really want to look for something that's physical if you possibly can, because moving, it turns out that moving has a lot to do with freeing up your brain. So things like writing, taking a shower, chopping, knitting, anything that is mechanical that you have learnt to do and learnt to do with some kind of efficiency. Later, I'm going to talk about taking up something that you're really bad about. We're coming up on time. So do I have special habits? Yes. You're going to have to work out what yours are. I have special meditations. Absolutely. I write magnetizing pages every single morning to map out exactly what I want. I know what I want from my life, and I know when I want it. And I write that down every single day, same exact words every single day with my candle on. And that leads me into my writing space. So I'm very much working on how to rather than waiting for inspiration to come, I'm working on how to get myself into a flow state. So you're going to have to do some investigating when in your life are you in flow, and how can you duplicate that for your writing life. Yeah, I think I am going to write a book about this. It's pretty interesting stuff. Huh? I hope that's useful.